Hello everyone and welcome to Ukulele Underground University Ukulele 102 week number 10. 10. 10. This is our last week, guys. It's been a long journey. And today we're going to be covering improvising. Hi, my name is Aldrin Guerrero and I'm joined by Mr. Aaron, the voice Nakamursi. What's up, Aaron?
What's up?
And by Mr. Kahai, the legend Ferguson. Say what's up, Kahai?
What's up?
So all three of us are here. Let's get down to business with week number 10 of Ukulele 102, improvising. So all the stuff that we've learned during Ukulele 101 and Ukulele 102 has basically led us to this point where we can just play all kinds of melodies at the drop of a hat, basically. When I tell you we're gonna be playing G C D, and we're gonna be strumming those chords, you're gonna be able to jam out in G C D and just make up something on the spot. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. All right, so let's take a look back at what we did for week number 9. So week number 9 was composing your own songs, all right? I know during the half break, what we did was we showed you how to create your own songs. But last week, what we did was we composed a melody-driven song. So we looked at what kind of melodies we can come up with, and we come up with some background ukuleles, so rhythm ukuleles, not only strumming, we did finger picking, and we did little embellishments to those rhythm patterns, and we also tackled the melody line, and we added expressions to them. We added some bends, we added all kinds of cool stuff even mutes and such. So it was really cool. Okay. Next up, we also came up with 2 or more parts to our song. So not just a melody, melody line, but we also came up with the backgrounds, like I was saying, the rhythm patterns. We did finger picking patterns for the rhythms, and we also did different inversions to those rhythm patterns. So not only are we coming up with 2 or more parts to our song, we were coming up with 2 or more parts just for the rhythm part alone. All right, and if we come up with a melody line, and if we do harmonies to that melody line, we can come up with something like 5, 6, 7, or even 10 ukulele part song. All right, so with what we've learned from the past 9 weeks here on Ukulele on the Ground, Ukulele 102, we have all the tools necessary in order to come up with a lot of different parts of a song. So not only can you play a tune, but you can also arrange a song for an ukulele group. Maybe you have an ukulele quartet, for example. So you can come up with like a strumming part. One person is playing the strumming part, another person is playing the finger picking part, and 2 other people are doing melody lines and doing harmonies to those melody lines. You can come up with your own ukulele quartet based on what we did last week. Also, we added new techniques to our compositions. Like I was mentioning, we added bends. We even added some mutes. And we added some of that parallel octaves. And some mutes as well, some left-hand mutes. It's a little bit more dirty playing, all right? So last week, we summed up a lot of the stuff that we learned and we used it to our song. This week, we're gonna do the same exact thing. We're gonna take everything that we've learned, but now we're gonna try to create songs on the spot. So instead of, kind of sitting down and creating arrangements for songs and writing our own songs and composing them, what we're gonna do today is just composing something on the spot, all right? So let's take a look at our goals for this week. Our goals for this week is to make up a solo on the spot. We want to be able to use all the techniques and knowledge to create intricate solos. We want to be able to follow the rhythm pattern and play around the chords. So I'm going to show you folks how to kind of prepare yourself to be able to make up a solo on the spot, all right? And all the necessary things you need to have, and kind of putting yourself in the mindset of, okay, I know what's coming up, I know what key I'm in, and so on and so forth, so I know exactly what I need to do. I know what notes are available for me, so I can create the solo on the spot, and and have a little bit more confidence in playing whatever it is that you feel in your mind. As long as you know that it's, you're in the right key, you're playing the correct notes, you can get expressive with it, and you can get creative, and you can express yourself musically by doing improvisation, all right? But before we get on to the actual week 10, the meat and potatoes of that, let's take a look at how did you guys do on last week's exercises. So last week, we held exercises kind of, put a little bit more perspective and expression into your arrangements. We did one first exercise was phrasing. So we talked about, like, oh, this right here. We talked about the piano, mezzo forte, forte, and we also talked about the pianissimos and mezzo piano, then mezzo fortes, fortissimo, so on and so forth. So we looked at all this stuff. And the first exercise deals with that, and it sounds like this. It goes like, so we did it just normal mezzo forte first. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we went soft, piano. And then back to mezzo forte. And it went all the way up to forte. And then go back to mezzo forte. And go to piano. Pianissimo. Back to mezzo forte. And end. Like the exercise kind of takes us throughout all those different dynamics that you can add to your playing. You can take it a step further and just kind of create your own dynamics. You don't necessarily have to follow what I was doing, as long as you're changing up the dynamics of your playing. You're going soft and you're going loud and kind of grasping the idea. Remember the hand gestures that I made last week, where you're supposed to start right here, so that you have room to kind of go down and to go up. But if you start up here, then you only have that much to do. So you need to start right in the middle and start right here. Actually, a lot of you start just banging away in your ukulele, and you can only go that much as far as expression wise. So you don't want to hit the ceiling too early. You don't want to be playing a loud ukulele and hitting that ceiling right away. The second one is adding legato to your playing. So what we did was we did some kind of hammer-ons and slides in order to elongate our notes. So we did. Oh, so I didn't keep anything. Yeah. Then we did staccato. All right, and we also the third exercise that we did is we showed you little fills here and there, and we talked about fills last week. Where we have C, fills for the G, back to C, fills for the F, fill for the G, to the C. And if you watched last week's lesson as well, we give a little bit more in-depth look into how to do fills and where they kind of fit in the song. Okay. Any questions on that? Anybody?
People are just coming in.
Okay. All right. So what do you think, Kahai? On just the arrangements in general, like I know we have we have staccatos, you have tenutos, we have all these dynamics. What do you think is the most important when you're writing a song?
I think, well, I don't know if it's the most important, but I think a lot of people forget about just using dynamics.
Yeah.
Like I think last week we talked about, one example was what is it called? It's like one of the solo songs.
Yeah.
And just like the fact that it's like people might go in and they just might play it strong from the start and do like a lot of attack. But if you like do it where it's like soft, and then you can gradually like build it, and then that almost makes it more impactful when it hits that dynamic top, right?
Yeah.
So I if you haven't played around with dynamics, that's something that you might want to try.
Right. Dynamics very, very, very important, and it does, like you said, it changes the entire song. And something like I would suggest taking a look at the song Imagine. Like right in the beginning, you only have those two notes kind of ringing out, and then two notes to complete that kind of that riff. But towards the end, you have like that doesn't have as much impact if you kind of start out with. If you're just banging away on the on the beginning riff. So when you have something as as small or as soft as, so by the time you get to there's a big difference, and that's kind of what we wanted to talk about last week, and in arranging your own tune. So not just taking a look at what notes and what chords you're supposed to be playing, but just the way that you play those notes as well. Long notes, short notes, loud notes, and quiet notes. So it all makes a big difference.
I remember the song. It was Europa.
Oh yeah, Europa. Yeah. Very expressive. It's a tough song to express.
The entire time I was trying to think of that song, and I was like, oh, I got it. I gotta tell them.
All right, so let's take a look here. The first thing that we like to do is I like to create a checklist. All right, before I even do kind of an improv, I want to make sure that I know what to expect in the song. I mean, I know improv is supposed to just be something coming up with something on the spot, but these are a few things that you should kind of know, or you kind of have at least an idea of what they are before jumping in head first. I mean, a lot of seasoned pros, musicians, they can just kind of jump in and feel out what what the right notes to play are, what right chords to play are. But for us normal humans, we like to come up with a checklist. So here's my checklist as to before playing an improv. First and foremost, I mean, I still do this, in performances, everyone that I've played with, basically. I mean, Jake Shimabukuro, Kale Gamiao, like all these guys that, that go on stage, before we have a jam, we always say, what key are we in? Is that right, gentlemen? Pretty much, right?
Yeah. At the very least.
Yeah, at the very least, know what key you're in. So that's why we wanted to drive that idea home when when we were teaching keys, and we were teaching chord families, and we figured that was very, very, very important, because no matter how what level we reach, or I reach, or my peers reach, we are still asking this very, very important question: what key are we in? All right, and I mentioned here, always the first thing to look for when playing any song, because we mentioned before that the key will give you a heads up on what notes we can play. It also gives us a heads up on what chords might be used. So if they don't even tell you we're gonna be playing G, C, D, or whatever in this song, if they just tell you, we're in the key of G, you're like, okay, well, I'll know to look for a C chord, I'll know to look for a D chord, or I know to listen for an A minor chord, an E minor chord, B minor chord, and maybe even an F sharp diminished chord. I know that I have to be aware of those sounds. And just like what we talked about a couple weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, last week, we were talking about 1 sounds like home, 4 sounds like our destination, 5 sounds like our way home. So if I know if I'm in the key of G, whenever I hear a chord that they're playing that doesn't sound like home, it's either going to be my destination, my way home, or perhaps an obstacle with the minor chord. So when you think about it that way, when you go in for an improvisation, you'll know all that you need to know, or at the very least, what you need to know just from knowing the key of the song. So in that key G, if it sounds like, it doesn't sound like I'm at home at G, so we must be in C, or maybe even D. So it'll kind of illuminate the road for you. So it's not just you're not going through that road blind.
Like you could, if somebody was playing, you could probably jump
get lucky.
in. Yeah, and you can kind of figure out, but it makes it so it's not as surprising, right?
Right. Because we've mentioned before that as long as you're in the right key and you're playing notes in that key, they're all going to be correct. Yeah, I mean, some notes might sound better than others, but there's not going to be a wrong note that you're playing as long as you're playing within that scale or within that key. All right. Also, if there's any key changes, check if the song changes keys and know the structure of the song, where it's headed. So knowing if there's going to be a key change gives you a little bit more illumination of what's going to happen in the song. There's not a lot of songs with key changes, but sometimes there are, and you need to be aware of those key changes. So if we are jamming with somebody, these are the 2 things that I'm going to be asking. So say, I'm going to be jamming with Jake on a song or something, and we're going to be jamming in, say we're going to jam what's a good song here? We're playing Waiting in Vain by Bob Marley. Where it's like, oh, we're gonna jam, we're gonna play the song, and in the middle, we're gonna be doing some improv. We're just gonna be feeding off of each other, some solos and stuff. All right, you got it? Sounds good. All right, so first thing I'm gonna ask Jay, Kate, what key are we gonna play the song? What key are we in? Are there gonna be key changes? So that I kind of know ahead of time. I don't want to be soloing with one of the best in the world in the wrong key, so I need to know if there's going to be key changes in the song. And I know the song structure, kind of like, okay, do we have a bridge, or do we have, chorus and this, and what are the chords for that? And are we going to change keys? All right, and when is that going to happen? So that's kind of like the structure of the song. Just knowing things beforehand gives you kind of a heads up.
You said you gave Waiting in Vain as a example, and like even if you know the song, you still want to check if it's in,
exactly.
like what key, right? Because like you could be like, oh,
some people play in a different key.
Yeah, I know Waiting in Vain. Yeah, sure, that's an easy song. That's just 2 chords, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're playing it in B flat or something.
Right.
It's like, I don't know this as well as they do.
Yeah, very, very, very important. So next up on our improv checklist is what's the chord progression. All right, so if you're, knowing the key is essential. That's like one of the essentials. This chord progression, they might not be able to give it to you, and I'll explain why. First is to repeat or not to repeat. So if there's a chord progression, does it repeat? Check the music to see if there's a pattern in the chords. A chord progression would be, just G, B minor, C, for example. If the whole entire song is just G, B minor, C, and it just repeats over and over, then that means I know that it's just G, B minor, C. There's no surprises that's coming up. I'm just gonna be jamming on that song for 2, 5, 10, 20 minutes or however long I want to be jamming. But if there is not a repeat, that's when it gets a little bit tricky. See if there's a chord progression. If that's the chord progression, then great. Do the chorus, bridge, or anything else in the song change the chord progression? So maybe that's G, B minor, C for the verse, and then during the chorus, it goes to D and C maybe, and that repeats. And then it goes back to G, B minor, C. I need to know these things. If they can't tell me, that's totally fine. Because if I know, number one, what key are we in? They're still in the same. Key, the key of G. So even if he goes to the D, I'm still jamming away in in the key of G and still fine. But it is good to know what chords are going to be coming up, so that if he does go to the D, I'll play the notes that sound good in D. And not just chords in or just notes in the key of G. I'll know that like, okay, in D, these are the notes that sound good. Those notes. So if I'm doing or I'm gonna be hitting those notes that's in the D chord. All right, strum a D for me, Aaron. D chord. So Aaron's gonna be strumming a D chord. So just go. But I'm in the key of G, so that's like his chorus maybe. Notice that when I hit that note, that's the preferred note. That's another preferred note. This is another one. So although all these notes are correct, still, it's good to kind of know what chord is being played so that you know which notes to take priority over some. It's all about priority. And the notes in a D chord take priority over everything else. Not that you can't play the notes in the key of G, but the priority are D, F sharp, and A. So when I'm playing G, my priority is D, G, B. When it goes to B minor, my priority is D, F sharp, B. When it goes to C, my priority is C, E, G. So here, so Aaron will play G, B minor, C, and I will improvise to G, B minor, C. and I will use those as priority. So we'll do 2 bars each, so it's longer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then C4, 4 bars. Okay, here we go. So since his first chord is G. And then go to the D. So here's the chorus. Which is the same thing as that. Back to G. Okay, so that's just, a little improv. I'm playing in the key of G. And I'm just playing those notes in G, but using those notes within the background chord as priority. Okay, notice that whenever I hit one of those notes in that chord, it sounds a lot more like I'm hitting the right note. Okay, like the other notes are just ways for me to get to those notes, those priority notes.
Well, we talked about home with the chords, but then it's like kind of the same idea where these notes are like home, and you want to go towards it or stick around it at least.
Okay, so let's see here. Just knowing the chord progression will give you a lot. So that because I knew it was G, B minor, C, I could kind of prioritize those notes when it came to that time. But if not, even if I didn't know that and I just knew the key that we were in, still fine. So play G, B minor, C for me one more time, and then I'm just gonna jam out in G. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So like no real structure, and just kind of playing around with that G scale. Nothing fancy about it. I'd even add bends. I didn't even add slides or anything like that. Just straightforward jamming and improvising in the key of G. So even though you just know what key you're in, it tells a lot about it. So that's why it is first in our improv checklist, and the next thing is chord progression, because that gives you a little bit more. Okay, next up in our improv checklist, is there room for me to do a solo? Okay, so in my improv checklist, it's kind of like, well, am I going to be able to do an improv to begin with? Because sometimes we don't, know your place in the song. Remember the hierarchy of music, and lyrics and or melody always takes priority. So lyrics, if someone is, if there is lyrics to a song that you're jamming, and that person is singing, I'm not going to be, while someone's trying to tell a story, I'm not just going to be jamming on top of that. It's a little bit rude, and just kind of know the hierarchy of music and kind of jamming so that the lyrics and the melody always is in front. If you guys are interested in this kind of in the hierarchy of music, check out our chord melodies, because in the chord melodies seminar that we did, we kind of showed you folks how to create chords in the background and the melodies in front of it. Never ever bury the melody. So that's kind of what we've been teaching here at Ukulele Underground, kind of the hierarchy of music. All right. Lyric and melody always take priority. Never bury the lyrics or melody line, and know when to come in with your improv. So is there room for me to do a solo? Sometimes, for the most part, if I'm not the leader, or if I'm not the the guy that's kind of leading the song, then I'll know my place, and I'll ask oh, did you want me to do a solo in this song? Do you want me to improvise in this song? If they're like, oh yeah, we'll give you some room in the middle after the chorus. So that I know in the middle after the chorus, that's when I'll do my thing. And then maybe I'll do a little fills here and there, just like how we covered last week, but nothing on top of that, nothing extra, because anything more will be too much. Okay, kind of know, like feel your way in the song and feel when it's appropriate to add fills, to add solos, so on and so forth. And for my improv checklist, it doesn't hurt to just flat out ask, is there room for me to do a solo in this song? They're like, yeah, we'll let you do one here. Then that's when you do it. What do you guys think? Because I get caught a lot in that, like, can I do this now? Like, or sometimes I don't even get a solo when I'm jamming with other people, and that's totally fine too.
Yeah, like, I say, like, especially if it's like a group or like a band and
Yeah.
there's like a singer, there's if they want you to do a solo, they'll make sure that there's room for you to do a solo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if not, they're just gonna play the song and you're
Yeah.
just gonna like, and you don't just like start going off
Right,
on
right.
it.
It's good to ask, and if not, then that's fine. Maybe on the next song of the jam or something, or maybe they'll dedicate an entire song for you to just improv and solo.
Yeah.
So who knows? But the main thing is to just ask and just make sure everyone's on the same page. Okay. Next up, is there any questions for these past 3 improv checklist items?
Joel like kind of pointed out the same thing too, where he said like during the open mic, they're playing island style, and
Yeah.
Joel thought like, oh, we're gonna like get to solo and stuff,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then Alan started singing. He's like, oh, I guess not.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
it's
Well,
just-
it's good that he kind of pulled back
Yeah.
when Alan started singing. So that's it's just good to kind of know when to do your solo and when not to do it, when the appropriate and inappropriate time. Also, singers should know when it's appropriate time to start singing as well, to stop singing.
Yeah.
Same thing goes for singers. All right. So, anything else? Any other questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So next up, what is the feel of the song? Is another of my checklists, because the way that you approach the solo is going to be is going to have a lot to do with how the song feels. You're not going to be just blazing away doing like 1,000,001 mile per hour solo, and it's like a super slow song. We're playing Imagine or something, and I'm just doing, and you're doing. You're not doing that. It's really inappropriate. Figure out the tempo, or if there are any tempo changes to the song. Is this song slow or fast? If the improv is close to how the melody or lyrics go, it's easier to connect with. Try to follow the groove of the song. So that's a good kind of rule to live by. Whatever the melody line of the song, you can use that to make your improv stronger. So if I am grooving in Imagine, play those chords for me, Aaron. So this is gonna be C and F. So that's kind of the background chords for Imagine. So. So those are all improvs, but what I did is I kind of followed the melody line of. So I kind of followed that first part and then like improv along the way. So that made my improv a lot stronger because my audience already connected to the melody line. So they know what the melody line sounds like. They know what the actual lyrics are, or how the lyrics go, or what the feel of the song. So if I'm grooving and making what I'm playing similar to what's already being done, it makes it cohesive. So personally, I'm not a big fan of like people who are just going off crazy with the solos and it doesn't even sound. It sounds like a completely different song. So at least make it, related, not like a distant cousin. I jam with a lot of guys like that, but I also jam with a lot of mature musicians who kind of just feel out the song and do improv to the feel of the song. Don't fall into the first category. Don't just go crazy, because for the most part you have to think about what is best for the tune. Okay. Sometimes it's best to do something really flashy and something amazing, but sometimes you just kind of have to hold back. Like I wouldn't do something super flashy on Imagine, but if we're playing something like body surfing or breezing, of course that's we're gonna be jamming out, or even breezing. Breezing has to kind of start out slow and then it gets to a part where you can jam. If you just jammed out on that slow part, it doesn't work either. So you have to kind of feel the groove of the song to try to follow the groove. All right? Questions so far?
I don't think there's questions. I know, like, John Mayer, he said, like, that if you're grooving to a song, like, or there's, like, players who, they'll go, like, super technical and they'll make crazy solos, right?
Yeah.
And he said, like, but how much people, regular listeners, are going to hear that and be like, wow, that guy's really good. He knows his Mixolydian scale really well. It's like, nobody's going to come up to you. But if you, like, groove to the song and you make it fit, then they'll be like, oh, I really like that solo. Or like, they might not come up to you afterwards and be like, oh, you killed it on the solo. But they'll know, like, oh, I like that song. I liked how that fit, It made sense to me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. Like, I jam with a lot of dudes. And sometimes I feel like some dudes feel like they have to, like, prove themselves to me. Like, oh, I got to prove that I can hang. But, like, when that mentality gets in your head and you do too much, it actually hurts it. It hurts the tune. It hurts what I, perceive like of this person. It's like just jam, just play what's what's inside. And I know that sounds super cheesy, but like you just gotta be honest with with yourself. If it sounds good to you, go ahead and go play it. Don't try to impress. Just play. Just make music.
We see that a lot at like NAMM, right?
Yeah,
where it's just, it's musicians and they're like playing stuff, and it's like. Almost like I don't even know what you're playing. Like I guess it's cool, but I don't know if that's supposed to be a song or what. It's just notes that you're throwing together.
I don't like the misuse of that E minor that E minor shape and then doing the. That's like what I hate most is the overuse of.
Yeah. I mean, it's good though. I mean,
if used properly, it's
if
good.
You use it.
And it sounds really, so play the G, B minor, C for me. So Aaron's going to play G, and this is an example of something that I'm not a big fan of.
Double, or you want to go?
Just one, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so this would be just like an appropriate solo. This is an inappropriate. So it starts out with that. Like, I know some people are like, "Oh man, that sounds impressive," but it's like it's too much. It's too much. But to each his own. To each his own. To each his own. It's a little bit much.
You talked about like that dynamic, like ceiling or like stuff, and then the same thing applies too, where it's like not volume, but just like technique and stuff.
Right.
You don't wanna go
too
all
much
out at the
and doing like parallel octaves or whatever whatever it may be. It has to be appropriate. Okay, choose something appropriate.
I don't want to like. I'm not calling out anybody in particular. But it's kind of fun watching you play with like either younger musicians or less experienced musicians, and then they'll usually do that like where they bring it out like really early, and you're still like playing. You're like okay, and then when you start to bring it out, they're like, oh no,
I don't have anywhere to go.
I don't have any more tricks.
Yeah, all my cards. I don't have any more cards. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, so. It's cool though, and it's know.
But I mean that kind of thing happens in every circle of. Thing that
of anything, If
I
was like a awesome skateboarder, of course, Tony Hawk comes along, I'm gonna show him like my best trick. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be like, oh, here's an ollie first, and then,
but then Tony Hawk is like, oh no, here's like another kid just trying to show off.
So my what we're trying to get at is try to follow the groove of the song, please. All right. Any questions?
No. All good.
Okay, here we go. Next up. Sharpening your skills. So we went over the checklist. So if you know all those things in the checklist, so let's actually go over the checklist and see what we did. So first, what key are we in? Second is what's the chord progression? Third is there room for me to do a solo? And last but not least is what is the feel of the song? If you have all four of those things, you should have everything you need in order to do an improvisation. All right, so that's just a little summary there. Okay, next up, sharpening your skills. So how do you get better at improv? So say like, you can improv a little bit, but say you wanna, you wanna get better. Okay, you wanna reach the levels of Taimane, Calais, Jake, James Hill, all those amazing, ukulele players. First, jam with a friend. I cannot stress this enough. The most growth that I saw in my playing was, in high school when I was jamming with my friends. I didn't even know like scales and appropriates. Like I was doing all that. I was doing all that stuff, when I was starting out. But making all those mistakes, jamming with my friends is what it took for me to grow as a musician. So to jam with a friend, improv style, you can come up with simple chord progressions and just start trading solos. All right. And remember, always take turns if possible, because you'll learn faster by feeding off of other people. I was jamming with, a bunch of like-minded ukulele players who wanted to, improve. Even now, not just back then when I was improving, even now, like when we were on a tour bus, like with Calais or Kios or with Abe Lagrimas, Lagrimas, he's gonna get mad at me. It's Lagrimas. With those guys, whenever we had downtime, it's like, oh, you guys want to jam in G minor or something? I'm like, okay, cool, and we're just kind of jamming along, and we'll be trading solos. So I'll jam my thing, and then once Calais starts playing, or once Abe starts playing, once Kias starts playing, I kind of like, oh, that was kind of cool what they did there, or maybe I can do that same thing, but do it in my own style. So you learn and sharpen up your skills more if you're kind of jamming with others. I mean, if that's not available to everyone, but if that is available, that is the best thing you can do. In high school, even before I met all those crazy amazing dudes. Me and my friend Mark Baldonado, he's been featured in some of the lessons we have on Ukulele Underground. We would just kind of take something like body surfing, all right, and not play. Maybe we'll like come up with something different, like we'll improvise a melody line, and we'll come up with new things, or maybe play a song but not sing the lyrics, but just play it with our ukulele, improvise with our ukulele. So just try to improvise everything, all right. Next up is when you're jamming with a friend, you can use 4, 8, or 12 bars. And I was telling Aaron, like, oh, just give me 1 bar of this, give me 1 bar of that, 2 bars of this. So G, say 1 bar of G, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1 bar. Then B minor 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's another bar. And C, 1, 2 bars. So that's 4 bars. So I could tell somebody, oh, take like 8 bars of solo. That means 2 chord progressions. If I say 12 bars, like 3 chord progressions, and then after that 3 chord progression, I'll switch off. Maybe I'll start to strum the G, B minor, C. Let's try that right now, Aaron. So Aaron's gonna give me, let's just do 4. Let's do 4 bars of G, B minor, C. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Aaron will do a solo.
I wouldn't do a solo.
I mean, that's he was supposed to do one.
Theoretically,
could he do one? So that's kind of what I mean by when you jam with your friend, give your friends some some bars to kind of just fool around with. All right. Give helpful criticism and encourage each other. All right. Kind of like we still do this, and these are. I'm very excited to be teaching this because this is stuff that's happening right now, with myself. And when I jam with these guys, it's always like, oh, okay, what'd you do with that thing? Like I'm always constantly asking, like, oh, what was that little run? Like that you did. How'd you do that? Like, oh, that's so cool. That was really cool. Or like. Or like maybe that one part, when you did this, maybe try this. Like little helpful criticisms can go a long way, not just for yourself but for your friends as well. Because if your friends improve, then you're going to improve because you're just going to be feeding off of each other. All right. And even if we're not talking improv, if we're just talking jamming, if we're just okay, let's jam this song together, and we're just strumming, we're not even doing picking and stuff, you still should give your friends or your jam mates some helpful criticism. It's like, oh, I noticed that that you play your C chord like this. Is it because you can't hold like the B flat chord shape and you're just playing it like that? It sounds a little bit better if you did this, and so if I did this, it's it's different things. But give yourself some positive criticism.
Yeah.
To encourage each other.
I think we had that duels with Patrick,
Yeah.
right? And you guys were playing Europa.
Right.
And when you guys played, you played something, and then afterwards he was like, "How did you do that? Like that was crazy, that like run." And then you're just like, "Oh, it's just
it's just
like,
this." So
yeah.
So then when Patrick goes home, it's like, "Oh, Dream showed me this thing," and then he'll just he'll get better that that way. So feeding off of other people, and that's another thing too. Like I got to jam with some amazing musicians, and I think I grew exponentially like when I started jamming with these higher level musicians. So if you can do it.
That's that's the same reaction that you have with Imua.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my god,
Imua Garza.
that thing that he's doing.
Like,
yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna put myself out there that like if you guys ever see me like at a festival or anything like that, you can pull me, as long as I'm not like busy, I'm not doing as long as I'm not on stage or teaching a workshop, you can always pull me to the sides like, hey, is it cool if we jam like a song or two? I would really like to jam with you. I am always down for jam. Okay, just putting myself out there, and because that I'm trying to pay it forward. So I've learned from these guys who had who were nice enough to spend some time to jam with me. And likewise, if I'm ever around, if you guys see me at a festival or anything like that, or even just if I'm playing somewhere and I have some time, I'll jam with you folks. Yeah. Next, jamming by yourself. So say you don't have friends to that also play ukulele that that you want to jam with. You can always come up with a rhythm and chord pattern that you want to practice, and then record yourself playing the rhythm and the chords. You can give yourself at least 30 seconds of recorded rhythm and chorus, and just jam out to it. So here I'll demonstrate what I mean by that. So I'm going to put up my my voice memo app. So it's not even any special app that I have. So voice memo app, everyone should have one on their iPhones or Androids and stuff. So here's one. So what I'll do is I'll hit record and I'll just play a chord progression. So that G, B minor, C chord progression that that I was coming up with. I'll play that for like 30 seconds. Here we go. Okay, so that's about 30 seconds. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play it back, and then I'm going to play in that key. So my checklist: what key am I in? I'm in the key of G, and what chords? G, B minor, C. What's the groove of the song? This is the groove of the song. So since I have all those, I'm free to just jam out with myself. Here we go. So, trying to lower the like raise the volume here. What is going on? Why is it so soft? Oh, there I was on silent. What's going on? Why isn't it there? Sorry, I am. Here we go. So if you trying to make it fit there, 30 seconds of that, and it's just kind of recording yourself so you have something like that to jam along with. And if your question is like, how do we even do improv to begin with? If I have not answered that question yet, because all the things that we've been doing like last week and the weeks before pretty much tells you how to improv. So to improv, same thing with making up your own songs. It's just you're making it up on the spot. I'm gonna come up with a like kind of a rhythm pattern. So if my rhythm pattern is that, so it goes. I kind of want to stick to that groove. Remember I said follow the groove. So here I'm just gonna play G. Because I know that it's down, chunk, up, down, chunk, up, down, chunk, up, down, chunk, up, down, up. So what I'm doing is I'm playing a note every single time that I'm playing any one of those beats. So if I were to do that same rhythm pattern with different notes, 1, 2. And all that was is just a scale. I just kind of added the rhythm and followed the groove and played notes to that groove. So once again, I'll do something nice and simple here. Maybe I'll just play these, just like with writing your own song, come up with 1 note and then 2 notes and 3 notes, 4 notes, so on and so forth. Here we go. So things like that. Like I started out with just that 1 note, then added 1 more note, then added another note. Then it's just kind of building and building and building. So I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't go through my checklist of like, what is the key? If I didn't know the key, then I wouldn't know, which notes I can hit. So if you're asking like, how does he know what notes to play? The key will tell you what notes you need to play. How does he know, like when to play certain notes? The quick answer to that is I don't. I'm just, making it up on the spot. I'm following the rhythm. I'm following the groove. Playing notes that are appropriate on the groove. Does it matter which notes I play? Not really, until, unless I'm picking my priority notes. But pretty much you can play any note, from the scale in at any time in your solo. Because it is an improv solo. It is your solo. Who's to tell you that you're wrong? You're making one up on the spot. So
I think like starting off with just that 1 note, right? And
yeah.
You get like
building,
because it's hard to just like if like you're jamming with somebody and then they're like, oh, just jump in. It's kind of hard to just like now it's like it actually is like a jump rope, right?
Yeah.
Like when you can't just like you have to time it and get it right and be like, okay, I'm feeling it out. Okay, I'm gonna go now. And then even with that, it kind of gives you like a nice little bumper to get into it. So.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we have play it back and jam just like I did, and then you can use a metronome to make sure that you're on beat. So you can add that in there if you feel like you want a nice time kind of metronome solo. Okay. Next up. Jam etiquette. So there's always these these rules that I like to consider so that I'm not being rude with when I'm playing with other people. So first, always communicate. If you have a question, if you have something to to say, just say so. You're jamming with these people. I'm assuming they're going to be your friends or someone that you know or someone that you're comfortable with. So you can always communicate with them. So go over the improv checklist to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So that checklist that we showed you earlier. Go over those with with people that you're jamming with. So if you're the jam leader, make sure everyone knows what key you're in, if there are any changes, and who's doing what. So it's like, okay, we're gonna do this in this key, and here's the chord progression. You take the first solo after the first chorus. You take the solo after the second chorus. So everyone knows what they're doing. All right. If you're a jam leader, do that, and if you're not, make sure to let the jam leader know, like, so in this song, who's gonna get the solos? What key are we in? What's the chord progression? Okay. So it's just good to always communicate, and even during the song, it's like, okay, who's gonna take one? Okay, you take one. And if you're the jam leader, total improv style is to just call it out on the on the fly. But that's still communicating. Okay, don't just assume that like, here I can do a solo here, and just playing that solo, who knows? Maybe the singer's gonna take another verse, and you're just singing over over him or her singing a verse. So always communicate, always say something.
when you play Breezin', right? Like there's a part where you like to stick on one chord.
Yeah.
And like when you do that, you just like tell everybody like, oh
yeah, it's your turn, yeah.
Or like, oh, just stick with that one chord. Like you're just giving them the heads up,
right?
right?
So always communicating.
Yeah, so it's not like, because if not, and you just expect like, oh, everybody's gonna stay on the same page as me. It's like, oh, why did everybody change chords? We're supposed to stick on this chord.
Yeah,
you know?
don't just assume that everyone knows what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's better to be on the same page. Just by
it's pretty good. It's a good rule. Go over the improv checklist. So as a jam leader, if you're going to make changes during the song, make sure everyone is aware of those changes, all right? And then signal the person you want to do a solo, or let everyone know you're going to take one if it's you. So just like, all right, everyone, I'm going to take a solo, or Aaron, take one, or Kahai, take one. If you guys have ever seen Aloha Friday Live Jam, we just jam, and I'm like, okay, Kahai, take a solo or whatever, take a snap or drum solo. Yeah, I'll always communicate with these guys that, like, oh, I'm going to take one. Or me and Aaron have been playing for a long time, so he knows when I'm taking one. Or and if he doesn't know if it's a new song that we're kind of doing, I'm just like, oh, I'll give him like a signal or something. I'm always communicating with my jam mates. All right, very important. Next, pick songs that everyone is familiar with, or everyone can at least follow. All right, try and gauge the skill level of who you jam with and make appropriate song choices. So if I'm gonna jam with somebody that just come up to me like, hey, I've been playing ukulele for like a year, let's jam together. I'm not gonna be like, all right, let's do it, Purple Rain. It's like, I'm not gonna give them something unless they know it, like I said, unless they're familiar with it. Or it's like, oh, here's let's jam Bandito Tyler, or let's jam something from my album or whatnot. I'm not gonna just assume that they know. I'm gonna pick songs that everyone's familiar with. So usually when someone comes up to me and asks to jam, I'm like, all right, what song do you want to jam? And so I can kind of gauge like, okay, this person's at this particular level of ukulele, and I'm like, all right, what key do you play that in? I go over the checklist again. What key do you play that in? Or do you have a certain chord progression that you do? All right, sounds good, let's jam together. And then bam. So we always pick songs that everyone's familiar with, or at least that kind of skill level. So gauge everyone. Just like don't do what I did with Aaron. Like Aaron's not too familiar with improvising, and I just kind of go
your turn.
Your go, and he's like so that's a wrong thing to do. But if you kind of judged wrong, and if I did that, all right, Aaron, now it's your turn, and then Aaron's like, oh, I don't know, then you just move on. Don't make them feel like like, come on, just do it, man. What are you doing? Just
I do that all the time. I pass on solos.
Yeah, you can just pass, and as jam leader, you should be fine with it. Like, okay, you don't want to get in people's comfort zones, or get away from people's comfort zones. So it's a good rule. All right. So try and gauge the skill level of who you jam with and make the appropriate song choices. Pretty simple. Next up, mind your volume. If there are multiple ukes or any other instruments, make sure to check your volume. If a singer or soloist is singing or playing or improvising, make sure you're at piano or mezzo piano. So you guys know what those terms mean now, so just nice and quiet. You're still there, don't worry, we can still hear you, but you're just not on the spotlight right now, okay? You don't have to always be on the spotlight and just try to be loud and everyone. Make sure that the appropriate person is in the spotlight, and make sure that you know where you are volume-wise, okay? Choose another inversion if enough people are playing the same chord and shape. So if you're, if Aaron's playing G, B minor, C, and there's like 3 other people playing G, B minor, C, that's when your inversion knowledge comes along. Maybe I'll play this instead. G, B minor, C up here. So it doesn't all sound like the same chord, with the same strum pattern, with the same everything, but with 4 different ukuleles. A little bit redundant. So we like to think about what else can we add onto that. And then if I'm playing that, I still have to think about what my volume is, so that I'm not overshadowing or burying anyone else. All right. So good thing to check in your jam etiquette. Check your volume. Okay, if you're louder than the singer, you should tone it down a bit. If the singer has to sing louder because you're super loud, then take a hint. Maybe I have to take those hints sometimes, because sometimes I just kind of get get in my own zone and like oh man, I'm sorry, Joey. Like, oh, I forgot that you were singing it. So take it from me. I still break this rule every now and then, but it's a good thing to think about. Keep in mind. All right. Gauge if enough people are strumming, and if so, do add something different. Maybe finger picking, but be aware of your volume. So don't like finger pick that you're directing attention to yourself, but finger pick kind of like this. Here's the difference. So Aaron's gonna play G, B minor, C again. So 1, 2, 3, go. And I notice that we're both kind of playing the same thing. So I'm gonna mind my volume and just finger pick like this. I'm not drawing attention to myself. I'm just adding things in there. I'm not like... I'm not doing that. So that's... I've jammed with people that do that. Don't be one of those guys, okay? Make sure you mind your volume. So I can kind of do things like that, but if I go at a mezzo piano, maybe it might be a little bit more acceptable. Try it. 1, 2, 3, go. If someone's singing and this is being done, it's a little bit distracting. So try to keep it as simple as possible. All right. So it's not distracting or taking anything away from the melody line or the lyrics.
Yeah. When you guys play too, like something you guys do is like you guys will fade out.
Yeah.
And you want to follow that if everybody else is getting quiet too, it's like you don't want to stay at the same volume. And like, oh, why is everybody else getting quiet?
Right.
It's like,
yeah. So a lot of people feel that like, oh, I'm gonna add some finger picking to this. It's like, but that's still not at the top of the hierarchy of music. So it's still finger picking is at the same place where rhythm patterns or strumming is. I feel it's pretty much the same thing. So you're neither a melody line nor a lyric. So just know your place.
It's like if you're playing with a group, you want the group to sound good, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about it like that, it's like, oh, I'm trying to make the group sound better than like I don't need to make myself out or like make myself loud.
Everyone listen to me finger pick this song. Like, listen to how impressive my finger picking is. Yeah. So another good rule in the jam etiquette. Don't talk over each other. And I'm going to say that once again. Wait your turn. So check your ego. If someone is already doing a solo, let them finish and do not play over them. Okay? So I've seen people do that finger picking pattern like at blaring volume while like I'm trying to like do a solo. So if I'm trying to do like a solo, trying to make it as melodic, trying to follow the groove of the song or the melody lines and coming up with my improvisation, it's kind of distracting to hear. When they're doing that, it takes away a lot from what's supposed to be in front. So same thing, kind of know the hierarchy of music, know when to stay in the background and know when to do things and when not to do things. So check your ego. Okay, I had to learn that a lot as a kid. I had my ego checked a bunch of times by professional musicians. Jake being one of them. That's my first ego check that I got, and I'm like, man, I am not cool. Because I was like, oh yeah, he's doing his solo. So the first time we played over at Borders Music, and he's like, he was nice enough to invite me over on stage and then we played body surfing together. And then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna show this guy like what I got, and I did like my strumming thing, and Jake was just kind of like in the back, and he's trying to do his trying to do the main melody line. I'm like, and I'm just strumming away, and then I'm doing the harmony to it, and I'm just trying to play over him, and then but by the time his solo came up, he just destroyed me. It's like, oh. Yeah, maybe I'm not. It's like just know when to make things like sound good. I guess like know when to play in front, know when to stay in the back, and yeah, if someone's already doing a solo, let them finish. Do not play over them.
I think it's hard because I think a lot of young musicians go through that same thing, right? Where they're just excited, and so like they're like, oh, I'm gonna play, I'm gonna show all my tricks, I'm gonna bring out everything. But like as you mature as a musician, like it seems like, or I appreciate more humble players who can like pull back, or who can know like, oh, now's not my time to play. So I'm just gonna hang in the back.
Matt's gonna hate me because I called him out. There's a video of me and Matt playing body surfing, and if you count like how many how many bars each of us is supposed to get like during the solo, I was not done with my 8 bars, however much we had, and then he just started going, and he's like super excited, and I just kind of let him go. I'm like, all right, like just, and then I did what Jake did to me, and I just like. I just did a solo that was so look, it's body surfing. It was during the NAM show, and we were just kind of just jamming and stuff, and you see him give up at the end. It's one of those things. Just know when when someone's doing their solos, don't play over them. It's
if you're starting off improvising and stuff, you're probably gonna make this mistake once or twice. Right?
Yeah, and it's fine. It's fine. It's a learning, it's a learning experience. But
that you just gotta go through.
Right, but just kind of being aware that there are rules kind of lets you be aware that, oh, maybe I wasn't supposed to do that. Instead of just doing it and thinking that it's okay. So that's why we kind of give you guys a heads up and like,
and then you can
might not fly.
if you're jamming with like a group, like the next time you go back, it's like, oh, now I know this time. I can pull back, or maybe I can try this instead. So.
Okay, next up. So over on the don't talk over each other. So just wait your turn. If you choose to finger pick, make sure it doesn't clash with whatever's already in front of the music. So if I'm doing that thing, just like how we showed you, it's going to clash, especially if you're at an inappropriate volume. It's going to clash. Try to keep as background as possible until it's your time to shine, and always make sure that you're adding to the conversation and not trying to take over the tune. Okay, so make sure that you're adding, and you're making the whole tune better instead of just like your parts. Like, oh, I just want to do this. Like, contribute something to to the song, and make sure that it's appropriate. All right, don't just start ripping it up when, just like I mentioned, and we're playing Imagine. Don't just start ripping it up, because that's not contributing to to the song all too much. All right, so make sure that you know what you're adding to the tune. Last is to have fun, because it is fun. Wait your turn, enjoy the music. Okay, enjoy the music. Collaborate with as many people as possible. You learn a lot faster. You learn to adapt to the music better with each person that you jam with. Play with different musicians, because different styles and different instruments means different things, and you're going to be learning a lot by jamming with other people, and it is a lot of fun. Even if I'm just jamming with my phone by myself, I'm still like creating music. So think of improvisation as seriously as creating something on the spot. Not only are you like creating your own kind of set of notes to that tempo, to that dynamic. It's really magical what's happening. You're taking all the knowledge that you've learned from playing ukulele, or from learning music in general, and applying those, and using your own judgments and your own note choices. Those are personal to you. So have fun. It's a magical thing when you when you improvise. You're creating music on the spot, all right? And it kind of gives a gauge of where you are as a musician in your maturity level of what what you play. It tells a lot about a person. Okay, so have fun. All right. What do you guys want to add to that?
I think like a lot of people. So when we get questions, people will say like, "Oh, how do I start improvising?" And that's one of the hard things, because it's like you'll get better the more you do it. Yeah. And you just have to start. You can't like, even though we said like, oh, just keep it simple with like 1 or 2 notes. Even if you just start with that, you'll get better. Like the more you do.
Yeah.
It really is just something you have to.
Right. Try. I mean, even if you take an entire afternoon just like practicing one note kind of improv. You'll improve just by doing that, because you're gonna figure out what the appropriate like timing is, what the appropriate groove is. So as long as you're kind of locking in with the groove, even if you're just playing one note, totally good.
We have and that's like, we have the jams and play-alongs and all that, and you can use those to practice improvising too. So there is like a ton of stuff that you can practice improvising with.
All right, here we go. So last but not least, we have homework for you guys, and there's 4. Why there's 4 is I have given you guys 2 different chord patterns that you can do some improv with, and exercise B is me jamming out to those patterns to give you guys ideas on what you can do with those chord patterns. All right, so just
each exercise is like a different chord pattern.
We made 4,
and then A and B are the ones that you did a little bit of improv picking on.
Okay. Yeah, so use those. So if you don't want to like create a rhythm thing with your phone, you can always go to these exercises over on UU Plus, download these, and jam along to them. All right. And my advice would be take it one note at a time, follow the groove, then add another note, follow the groove, and then another note and another note, then add some technique to it. All right, so we're gonna end this with a little bit of an improv jam. So Aaron's gonna play those chords again, and I'm gonna show you guys a nice
right before we end, sorry, this was a question from a while ago.
Okay.
Christine asked, like, what is the best key to start practicing improvising?
C.
So
yeah, C and G.
Yeah, and I think it was also like Joe or somebody else from the chat said that probably whatever key that you're most familiar with, and that's why we suggest C, right? Because it is like pretty common, or it usually is the one that people are most familiar with. So
okay, so here's a little jam, just a little example of improv here. So ready, G, B minor, C. 1, 2, 3, go. right, guys, so that gives you, an example of, practicing improv, going from one note to two notes to three notes to adding some techniques in there and kind of changing up the groove a little bit, but still following the original groove, but just, going, adding layers on top of that. Always adding something to the song, always very, related to what Aaron is doing. And I'm not doing anything too much, it's always just enough, and I know better ukulele players than myself will be able to add more, even more, to what I'm doing already, but still keeping it appropriate. So keeping it appropriate doesn't necessarily mean hold back on what you can do. Keeping it appropriate just means playing what sounds good. All right. If you can do something crazy, but it sounds good, by all means, go ahead and go do it. But nothing too distracting or something out of place. I'm not going to be playing like metal riffs over something as simple as, but some people might. Some people can. Some people can play those riffs and make it work if they can follow that groove. So improv is really just about having fun and expressing yourself as a musician, and showing what's kind of in your head, and showing people like, this is what it sounds like in my head, and I have this ukulele as my vessel to kind of show you folks what I'm feeling through this music, and what this chord progression feels like to me. And I feel like it needs these notes, and I'm about to show you who I am as a musician using the notes that I know and what I can play. All right, so very, very fun, and so very rewarding too, just to kind of know that you can create music instantly like that. All right, so think about that, and thank you so much, guys, for sticking with us through all 10 of these weeks on Ukulele Underground University's Ukulele 102. Next week, we're going to have a frequently asked questions and a Q&A for as a summary of all 10 weeks of Ukulele 102, and we're going to end it at that. All right, thank you guys so much. Have a great week. Tomorrow is going to be Aloha Friday Live Jams, and for those of you who are with UU Plus, stick around for the one-on-one sessions with me. So aloha.